My colleague, Ms. Porter.
Thank you very much. I want to start with you, Mr. Sanchez, and talk about the SBA's role here. About how many applications have you received from those affected by this disaster?
Completed applications is roughly 6,000.
6,000. Were there more that were started but not finished?
Yes, there were about 6,400 that were started.
And what have you done to? Sorry. What have you done to locate those people who started an application but maybe didn't finish it, to try to understand why?
Sure. We have gone through our teams on the ground as we've researched the database, who started an application, maybe didn't finish it. We have done multiple attempts. For example, we reached out just earlier this year to about 309 of those. 308 of those we were able to identify. At the end of the day, we were able to make positive contact with about 240 of those, and we tried multiple times over 2 weeks, and we identified, why haven't you completed it? Sometimes the answer was, no interest at this time. Sometimes they needed additional paperwork or guidance, and then our teams were able to follow up with them directly to help get them over the finish line.
I think that's really helpful, because I think in the wake of an event like this, there's sort of lots of different people coming to help, and people aren't sure where they belong. And so I think that follow-up and that tracking is really one of the most important things government can do. I think often we focus on what gets dispersed, what gets done, and I think one of the important things we asked ourselves, we actually have to study who doesn't apply, who doesn't know about the program, who doesn't complete it, to kind of understand whether we're being effective. I also wanted to ask you about sort of the role of the SBA writ large, because I think this is one of the agencies that maybe has a little bit of a public relations problem, in that you also assist individuals. Can you talk about that? Because I think what is a business under the SBA is complex, and I think often makes it challenging for people to know whether they can and should be asking you for assistance.
Sure. Many people don't know that SBA helps homeowners, renters, and businesses and private nonprofits help to recover after disaster. And we are here to help with your uninsured losses or underinsured losses. And for perspective, local and state governments typically do more business with SBA than almost any other federal agency. Certainly, FEMA comes in for the presidentially declared disasters. For perspective, we were on the ground for 472 disasters last year. Since 2000, there have only been 3 years where there have been more presidential disasters than SBA declared disasters. And so while we're on the ground more often, we do need the help of local communities, nonprofits, and local leaders to explain to people you can come to SBA and the value of a long-term, low-interest, long-term loan.
So I wanted to go back to those 6,000 applications that were received. How many has SBA accepted so far?
Of those, we received about 6,028 applications fully completed. We have approved 2,278 of those loans. The vast majority of those, about 1,434, are for homes, 356 for businesses, and 488 for economic injury disaster loans. That is businesses that were not physically impacted but are seeing a downturn in revenue. And some of those businesses may have been both physically and economically injured. Mm-hmm.
So what about the other 3,740 and change? Are you still reviewing them? What is their status? What is the timeline? Have they been denied? What can you tell us about that?
Sure. One of the concerns is a protracted recovery. We will be here for a while. Mm-hmm. And so we continue to reach out. There are folks that I continue to reach out personally. This is my third time on the island to help get through the process and see where they are. We will be here for the long haul. People are recovering at their own pace. We're learning the different culture of the island, the pace at which people come. We have, and so that's where that we're leading from the ground up is critical to us. In terms of how long we'll be here, we've done a 2-year. People can draw down 2 years from being accepted a loan. We recently signed a lease for 2 years with extension to extend. We know this is going to be a long recovery, so we have 10 staff on the ground. 5 of those are local hires. And so we're committed to be here however long it takes for us to get people across the finish line.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point, that the work that you've done in terms of increasing the disbursement period. I think sometimes we focus on, every dollar has to go out right away. And I think what that misses is that sometimes not everyone wants their dollars right away, because once you take the money, then the time starts ticking for the repayment and the rebuilding. And we are now, as we've heard from the EPA and from the engineers and from FEMA, we are now in a place 1 year later where water has been restored, power has been restored, debris has been removed, and we can start actually that rebuilding process. So I just want to emphasize to the public, I think sometimes there's a sense of every dollar hasn't gone out, it's been a year. I think your point about centering when people are ready for that help and being here in the long term is really important. So I want to suggest to you that lengthened dispersal process and that lengthened repayment period is something that I think, particularly for fire, we might need to adopt more agency-wide. I do think there are unique things about Lahaina, but I think fire generally, a little bit different than flood, for example, but even flood, I think we're just experiencing bigger disasters, and that means it takes a longer time to do the cleanup and repair, and we're doing it in a more both culturally sensitive way but environmentally safe way, and what that means is we can't always disperse the money as quickly, and so I would encourage you to think about that. I actually have more questions, but my time has expired, and I hope we have a chance to come back around, Mr. Chair, if we can.
Thank you very much. The gentlewoman yields back her time. The answer to that is, yes, we will do that. You had previously directed that comment to me, and I wanted to be as realistic as I could. We don't have 40 members here. We have members who are here.
You should be thankful we don't have 40 members.
Well, I agree with that also. We'd now move to the distinguished gentleman, Ms. Dakota, for her 5 minutes.